Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking into something really concerning, a global health mystery that often flies under the radar. It's this surge in chronic kidney disease, but of unknown cause. They call it CKDu. It's hitting young, otherwise healthy people, and it's perplexing. Think of this as your quick guide to understanding this hidden threat.
Yeah, it's truly baffling because this isn't the kind of kidney disease you typically see linked to, say, diabetes or high blood pressure.
Right.
Instead, CKDu just seems to creep up silently. We're seeing it mainly in hot, rural areas focused on agriculture. Think Central America, parts of South Asia like India and Sri Lanka, even into Africa and the Middle East.
And it hits specific groups.
Disproportionately, yes. Young men often doing really physically demanding work outdoors. It's a real medical puzzle.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit, this unexplained kidney disease. What actually sets it apart? What are the key features?
Well, the definition itself is key. It's progressive kidney disease. But crucially, it's in people who aren't diabetic and don't have high blood pressure. Often, as we said, agricultural workers.
And it has other names too, right? Depending on the region.
Exactly. You might hear it called Mesoamerican nephropathy or CNAC. And the impact is significant. In some areas of India, for example, it's actually the second most common cause of chronic kidney disease now, just after diabetic kidney disease. You see these tragic clusters like in the Udanam region.
Wow. So how does it actually show up, clinically speaking?
It's often subtle, especially at first. Doctors see a slow, steady decline in kidney function that's measured by something called eGFR. The kidneys themselves often look small, kind of shrunken on scans.
And unlike some other kidney diseases, not much protein in the urine.
Often, yes. Minimal protein and blood pressure might be normal or just slightly up. The real challenge, though, is the early symptoms are so vague. Maybe just fatigue, some muscle cramps.
So people don't realize how serious it is until quite late.
Precisely, which often leads to a late diagnosis when the damage is already quite advanced. It's heartbreaking.
It really sounds like a silent attack. We called it a mystery, and figuring out the why behind CKDu has been tough. What are the leading ideas, the main suspects?
Right, it's been a huge focus, and basically two big theories have emerged, and they often seem connected. The first one is heat stress and dehydration.
Okay, the climate connection.
Yeah, there's a compelling link. Doing repetitive, hard labor in extreme heat, think over 6 hours directly in the sun without enough water, like less than 3 liters a day, that seems to directly injure the kidneys over time.
So possibly one of the first major epidemics linked to global warming?
Some researchers definitely argue that. It's a stark possibility. But there's a catch. Heat alone doesn't seem to explain everything. You can find communities nearby just as hot, but without the high rates of CKDu. So there's likely more going on.
Which brings us to the other major theory.
Environmental toxins. This is where things get really complex. Studies, especially out of India and Sri Lanka, show pretty strong links to agrochemicals. We're talking pesticide residues, particularly older types like organochlorines and organophosphates.
Stuff that lingers in the environment.
Exactly. And heavy metals too. Cadmium, arsenic, lead showing up in soil and water. Even contaminants in groundwater like silica or strontium have been implicated in some regions.
So how do these two ideas, heat and toxins, fit together?
Well, the growing consensus is that it's likely multifactorial. It's probably not just heat or just toxins. The thinking is that the repeated heat stress and dehydration sort of primes the kidneys, makes them more vulnerable.
Okay, so the heat weakens the defenses, maybe?
Something like that. And then this chronic low-level exposure to these nephrotoxins, these kidney-damaging substances, can do more harm than they might otherwise. It's like a 1-2 punch.
And the specific toxins might differ place to place.
Yes, that seems likely. In Central America, maybe it's factors related to sugarcane work, plus maybe frequent use of NSAID painkillers. In Sri Lanka, specific heavy metals seem more prominent. In parts of India, maybe silica. The mix varies.
That makes sense. It's complex. So the big question then is, why now? Why are we seeing this surge now?
It feels like a perfect storm of converging factors, really. Ambient temperatures are rising globally, intensifying that heat stress component.
Right, climate change.
Then there's intensified agriculture, more chemicals being used, often globally. And issues with contaminated drinking water in many of these regions are becoming more apparent.
Work practices play a role too.
Definitely. Long hours in the sun, maybe not enough shade breaks. Sometimes workers reach for sugary drinks for quick energy instead of water, which doesn't help hydration. And as mentioned, using NSAIDs regularly for aches and pains, especially when dehydrated, can also be tough on the kidneys.
Wow. It sounds like a really systemic problem. What can actually be done? Are there solutions?
Yes, absolutely. And they need to happen at different levels. For workers and communities, the focus has to be on heat safety. Simple things like mandated shade breaks, access to cool rest areas, and crucially, ensuring people drink enough water more than 3 liters a day, maybe with electrolytes.
And tackling the toxins.
Reducing exposure is key. That means promoting safer ways to handle pesticides, much better testing of water sources, and using filtration where needed. Also, advising against routine NSAU registries, especially in hot conditions.
And for the bigger picture, policy change.
Definitely. We need things like national CKDu registries to track the problem properly. Governments need to enforce occupational heat standards, regulate harmful pesticides more strictly, and crucially invest in safe water infrastructure for these vulnerable communities. Research funding is also vital to pinpoint the specific drivers in each region.
Okay, so let's quickly recap. CKD is this serious growing threat, mainly affecting young workers in specific agricultural regions. It seems driven by this dangerous combination of climate change-related heat stress and chronic exposure to environmental toxins.
That's the core of it.
But the important takeaway is that it is preventable and it is detectable if we put the right measures in place and raise awareness.
Absolutely. And maybe, thinking bigger, this really prompts a question for all of us, doesn't it? As consumers, as community members, as citizens, what's our responsibility here? How do we address not just the symptoms like the kidney disease itself, but the root causes? Things like climate change, agricultural practices, ensuring safe working conditions and clean water, especially for the most vulnerable populations who are often disproportionately affected by these silent environmental health crises. It makes you think about how interconnected everything really is: climate, farming, health, policy.